Good afternoon, and welcome everybody to a virtual fireside chat as part of Fintech South 2020. My name is Jeff Miller. I'm a coordinating partner here in Ernst & Young's practice focused on business and technology consulting. I'm pleased to be joined by David Wilkinson, President and General Manager of NCR Retail. Welcome, David, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So clearly we're living in unprecedented times these days. So thought we'd start by talking a little bit about how it's impacted consumers and retail. Can you share a little bit how NCR has adapted to that? And most importantly, how you're positioned to support retailers and the ever-changing consumer expectations?
Yeah, absolutely. I think all of us participating in this conference are participating in unique ways that we never thought we would be participating in. I mean, we typically at this event, we'd be at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium and in person and having a live conversation. Now we're all either at home or in an office or in some kind of isolated manner. So it's been very different for us as consumers, for us as businesses. When I think about consumer behavior, the shift to really availability of core needs was the immediate reaction, and we all remember the runs on the grocery stores and how hard it was for grocery retailers to keep things in stock. So that's been a big change. And then we quickly pivoted to how do we keep employees and consumers safe during this pandemic, and it's created new cleanliness standards, new shopping standards. In some parts around the world, we actually helped our retailers build appointment apps for grocery shopping. And that was a big thing in Italy. As an example, they were queuing up outside of the stores, and we helped our retailers in that space. So we as NCR serve three different segments of retail. We look at grocery and big box as a segment. We look at convenience and fuel retail as another segment, and department and specialty as a third, and they've all been hit in slightly different ways. Grocery clearly is in a hyper activity world where more and more consumers are going into their stores and they're seeing volumes at a high level. They're all essential businesses around the world, and so what we've done as a company is we service a lot of those retailers. So we've also been deemed as essential in many of those areas. So our goal is to keep our employees safe and keep our retailers up and running as they're reacting to the different demands that are happening in the market.
Gotcha. Thank you. I know that your next generation retail store architecture is a big part of that plan. And if you could tell us a little bit about that and how that can help support our retailers.
Yeah, thank you. And it is a bit of a mouthful. We unveiled that next generation retail store architecture at NRF, which is a big retail show every January in New York, and it's really been resonating well. If you think about it in simple terms, it's really our retail platform, and what that retail platform allows us to do is find new ways to serve our customers. And we're finding that in this new way of doing business, our retail clients are looking for ways to deploy technology faster and try some things in the store. Quite honestly, like I talked about that application that would do appointment setting. And how do you try some of these things in an integrated fashion without doing months or years of integration work and allow you to, we'll call it plug and play through API frameworks. That's really what this next generation retail store architecture is focused on: speed of deployment, lowering your total cost of ownership, and creating flexibility. I think in today's world, the labor in the store is changing. The requirements for labor in the store. Grocery is focused on stocking the shelves, cleaning the store. Convenience and fuel is focused on making sure the store is clean and keeping flow. Department specialty, in many cases, they're changing their working hours or perhaps shutting down locations. So the labor requirements are really high, and I think all of our clients see that technology is a way to create labor productivity gains in the store and allow us to focus labor on what really matters, and that's helping their guests, keeping their employees and guests safe.
Excellent. Thank you. So, we talk about how quickly things are moving, and we talk about innovation and operating at the speed of change. How's the pandemic impacted the speed of retail, as an example? How do you see that playing out?
Yeah, it has increased the pace. So in many cases, the conversations themselves haven't changed. I mean, we've been as an industry trying to find new ways to deploy technology faster. We're as an industry, as we all know, retail, we're the a lot of the legacy technology environments are pretty old and on older architecture. So the speed at which we move has always been a little bit slower than everybody would like. And as the consumers take more control of their shopping experience, the need to plug in some of that technology at the storefront takes on even greater importance. Now hyper jump into pandemic land, and here we are thinking about how do we enable mobile payments? How do we enable touchless transactions, whatever that may look like, whether it's pay at the pump, which we've helped several of our convenience and fuel retail customers enable, or things like, Walmart Pay. Walmart is a big customer of ours, and we had some conversations with them early on in the pandemic. They have their own payment application, and they wanted to integrate that into our self-checkout. And so we put a team in place, and in a matter of, I'll call it hours, because days we'll call it a couple of days, but it was really hours. The team went around the clock trying to get that up and running, allowed Walmart to go to market with something that they were able to market to their consumers and to all of us to say, hey, we can, if you don't feel safe touching things in the store, we can do a complete contactless transaction throughout the store. So we're having fun with a lot of the technology advancements. You think about as the global market leader in self-checkout, we're trying to find new ways to create what feels like a safer experience or a more frictionless experience in the store. So if I go to a self-checkout device, inherently I have to both touch the items in the grocery store, touch a lot of buttons that, quite honestly, other people are touching. They clean them quite regularly, but you think about touching them. So we're doing some things around, as a mobile device, leveraging the inherent ADA capabilities of a device to almost do a remote control from a mobile phone that allows you to do effectively remote control that SCO device. All the button pushes would be on your own device, or leveraging some technology that creates effectively a laser field in front of the display that turns any display into a touch screen without actually touching the screen. It knows where, and there's some technology that allows you to highlight the area. So things like that, and then integrating that into the payment side around, mobile wallet or other forms of either tap to pay or mobile payments are really how we're thinking about innovation with our clients, and that's just accelerating. I mean, those are the conversations that we will continue to have through the pandemic. And like you said, the sense of urgency is higher. The speed at which they want to deploy those things are higher, and we just don't know what we don't know about what will work. And consumers, what they're telling us as they shop is that they like some ways to do things and other ways they don't like, and we've got to be fast to adopt and adapt and create flexibility in our technology model.
Yeah, clearly the name of the game. You talked about customer expectations. I think everybody continues to wonder what the new normal is going to be. Are we going to go back to the way things were? Is it going to be some hybrid? What are some of the customer expectations that you think are going to stay, or are there things that we now are going to continue as the new normal with?
Yeah, that's an interesting question as we try to look into the future post-pandemic. I think that from our perspective, we believe, in our research and the research that we read would tell us that, I see anywhere between 30 and 40%, and how they measure that, I don't know the exact science of all that, but 30 to 40% of the behaviors that we see and the habits that we see forming will stay post-COVID. Other research will tell us that the technology on the consumer side and in retail has been advanced 5 to 7 years in terms of technology deployment and adoption. So, the easy answer is the behaviors of convenience and safety that are adding value to the lives of all of us as consumers, I think will stay. I think there are some things that we all know that we see and watch that aren't necessarily adding as much value. So if you move to a world where there's a vaccine or other things where you have to wait and limit the number of people in the store, that, those things will probably likely change. The convenience factors of ordering things online, picking them up in the store, curbside, home delivery, those are things that we're all learning that the markets were slower to adopt. We saw other parts of the world adopt them much faster. In Europe, as an example, doing your own self-scanning in aisle, doing your own bagging and carrying groceries out was a much more accepted way of doing business. In the U.S., it was slow to adopt. So we're seeing more of that as shoppers want to take control of their own shopping experience. So I think we're going to see a mixed bag, but it's also going to be helpful as retailers plan. I think they can plan differently around both cost and infrastructure. So today's world, you build a store, or a store was built, and it looks like a traditional store. Around the edges of the store are fresh meats, produce, chilled items, and the center of the store is dry goods. At the front of the store is where you check out. I think the notion of having it laid out that way can change dramatically. Having the dark stores that do fulfillment only. We're seeing a little bit of like dark kitchens in the restaurant space. That we will see some of these things take hold, and I think the industry, all industries as a whole, will start to adopt these as ways to not only create convenient shopping experiences, but do it more cost effectively and lower the cost to serve their clients or lower the cost to serve us as consumers as they go through that. Because today, if you think about it, we as consumers have shifted labor back to the retailers with things like buy online and pick up in store. So we can just go on our mobile app, order a bunch of stuff. Labor in the store has to go do the picking, packing, boxing, bring it to your car, bring it to your curb, bring it to your home. Those are things that we've got to find more efficient ways to do that, because it's not on grocery, as an example, on grocery margins, that's not something that's sustainable long term unless we change the cost of those kind of things.
Got it. That definitely makes sense, and it's become the new normal for a lot of people that probably will for quite some time, if not from now on. As far as retailers go, disruption is a big concern of everybody across different market segments. If somebody were to, think about planning for the future, and it's a daunting task to, update architecture, to update processes, to change your operating model. There's a lot to do there. What advice would you give retailers as far as, how to try to stay ahead of the curve, how to make sure you're being innovative, make sure you're taking advantage of the latest technologies and capabilities and solutions that are out there? How would you suggest that they, keep from being disrupted in this market?
Yeah, Jeff, sorry, you cut out the end, but I think I got the gist of your question. So, if I think about how retailers should plan for the future, what we're advocating, and part of that is that next generation retail store architecture, is taking an architectural approach. So, in the past, or up until now, or even currently, we think about consuming technology as a piece of technology. So, as an example, if I have, somebody a startup could come in and say, I have this great mobile application that does whatever, clienteling in the store, does mobile fueling, does online shopping, whatever you're doing. But that becomes an island of technology. And that island of technology then requires a bunch of integration. So what we're advocating is take an architectural approach, because you just don't know where the next innovation is going to come from. And we have to be prepared as an industry to consume innovation from a lot of different sources. And so we're taking more of an open approach, and we advocate that across the industry to say, let's use common capabilities. Let's leverage the best solutions that we can leverage, and use the open standards and API frameworks that exist to allow us to do faster time to market on a lot of these innovations. I would also say that for us, we're seeing a lot of our retailers contemplate what's core to their business versus context. And so that what we're building is a set of capabilities that allow we want to we'll run all the IT in your store and allow you to focus on being a really good retailer. And we think we're seeing a lot of retailers respect and really have demand for that, where they've got to focus on creating safe stores, getting the right inventory and supply, creating safe environments, and driving loyalty and brand preference for their branded set of items. And IT in some cases is an enabler of that, but not a core competency. So we're driving towards that. And then I think we had yesterday was Global CX, Customer Experience Day. So we as a company, as NCR, participated in that, and we had the honor of having 4 or 5 clients speak at an event that we had internally, and about 10,000 employees attended in a similar environment. And what we heard was that through the pandemic, where we were doing services, their technology didn't miss a beat. So I think you have to be prepared and ready for disruption. And what's your disaster recovery, and how are you thinking about that? Because I think what we found is the retailers and banks and restaurants that were prepared and had the right plans in place, not that we could foresee a pandemic, but thought about technology more holistically, were able just to continue through this and then focus on the things that they needed to focus on. And instead of IT being a barrier, it could become an enabler.
Excellent. So to summarize, to let the retailers focus on what they do best, and that's taking care of their customers, and then let others like NCR take care of the technology and have that be seamless. That's exactly where everybody wants to head, I'm sure. If you take it from another perspective, what should the customer or consumer be expecting? What should they look for?
Yeah, we as consumers are in a great position, because what we're finding is this technology adoption, or the increased pace that we're deploying technology in retail will really benefit us as consumers more than anything. So we all in our everyday life, we know the best experiences we have in many cases are digitally enabled. You want to be served the way you want to be served, and you want to be able to shop in ways that you want to shop and are convenient to you. In some cases, that may be buying online and picking up in the store. In other cases, I like to walk into a store that's familiar to me, that people are familiar with me, and can help me on high engagement type of items. And what I think what consumers can expect, demand, whatever, is we have a lot more power, and we're going to be able to do things the way we want to do them. And we're going to be in a technology enabled world that allows us to use technology, to move forward in our journey as consumers, and not really be a barrier. And I think we'll start to see more experiences that are common across retail. And I think if you thought about it as a consumer, if you had to have an app for which we do today, for every retailer that you interact with, or every restaurant that you interact with, or every bank that all your banking needs, it starts to become a little bit cumbersome. So I think we'll start to see a coalescing of some of that, more putting you as a consumer, putting your data and your purchase history in your control, and then the ability to share that with retailers, versus the other way around, where retailers kind of own that transaction data and choose how they want to use it. You as a consumer will get more power over your data. So I think it's going to be a fun world to be on the technology side. I think it's going to be a fun world to be in as a consumer, as we start to see some of this technology enable our lives and make it a whole lot easier, I think.
Excellent. So we talked a little bit about the future, knowing there's no crystal ball, but the pandemic has really changed the retail landscape. And moving forward, how would you suggest somebody plan 6, 8, 10, 12 months out, or is it really short-term adjustments on the fly as we have to pivot with new development? How would you look longer term?
Yeah. Hey, Jeff, I lost the very beginning of that question. If you don't mind, just the first part, I caught the tail end. Sorry.
Yeah, apologies. So, looking out into the future, in terms of planning, knowing things are changing so fast, how can you take a long-term approach with, such rapid fire change that we're experiencing today?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll think about that in 2 ways. I think about it as us as a company, as NCR, as we go through planning. I mean, we all kind of threw the plans out the window for 2020. when the pandemic hit, and so we're effectively, as many of our clients are, looking at a way to say, okay, we're going to set a new baseline, and then that baseline, not only from a how do we think about performance of our company, but from a technology adoption. Many of our clients put projects on hold because they were focused on other things. So when I think about the longer term planning horizons, I think we have to do a lot of scenario testing in the sense of, what are the upside and downside. I think predicting a recovery kind of near term, but it does have longer term impacts, for all of our clients will be interesting. What does a recovery look like, and how quickly does that come online? And then from just a pure technology standpoint, I will go back to the discussion around taking an architectural approach. You have to try to build in as much flexibility as you can and be prepared for the fact that we don't know what we don't know. And I think that the range of unknowns is bigger than it's ever been. And so the flexibility that you create in your model today will serve you well in the future. Even as we stabilize, it won't hurt you to be more flexible. So I think the building in flexibility is key.
Makes great sense. I know we've got a few minutes left here. Anything more you want to make sure we cover when you start to think about retail and commerce and the digital transformation that we're in the midst of?
Yeah, the last thing that I think about, and we touched on pieces of it as we think about contactless, but the world of payments will start to look different as well. So I know in the U.S. we've been slow to adopt a lot of alternative payment forms. When we could travel overseas, when I would travel to Europe or parts of Asia, I had access to mobile payments in Asia and tap and pay and many parts of Europe, and we're starting to see that in the U.S. So I think we have to think about our payments ecosystem, as well as we go through this, and I think then we also have to look at alternative payment methodology. So some of the other fun stuff that we're looking at are things like, how does blockchain and distributed ledger and the world of cryptocurrency, as we get stable currencies built off of that, how does that impact us? So there's a lot of I think there's a lot of fun things happening in the world of retail, and I think payments will be a bit of the next frontier for us as well, especially here in the U.S. as we start to think about it a little differently and open our minds and start to accept these alternative forms of payment. And then the flexibility to take these various payment forms. I mean, cash, while declining for usage, is still a massive part of our economy, and so I think we have to be prepared to serve the cash society and or the unbanked or underbanked members of society as well. So it's not a all or nothing, and it kind of leads back to that flexibility.
Excellent. This has been a great discussion, David. I appreciate the insights. I appreciate all that you're doing to help us as consumers and supporting the retailers out there. We're living in very exciting times, and I think it spells opportunity. And I like that you say the consumer is definitely in a very strong position as things evolve and change. So retailers are going to continue to focus on the consumer and their customers, and I think your insight is really going to help with that. So appreciate the time today. This has been great. Thanks for everybody for joining us. We wish you a great rest of the conference and a great rest of the week. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff.
All right.
Thanks so much, Jeff and David. Really appreciate that. Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Schmidt. I'm an EY Consulting Senior Manager based right here in the city of Atlanta. That was a great morning of content here in the retail and commerce space. We definitely really appreciate all of our panelists and moderators. I know I learned a ton, and it was a bunch of really, really great content. To all you audience members, thank you so much for joining us and participating in today's session. We were really pleased to host everyone within our retail and commerce space. Looking to this afternoon, we've got a ton of great content within the EY payment and innovation space. So we certainly would invite you all to join us within those sessions. We've got some great and amazing speakers from amazing companies like Now Account, Abbott Exchange, OnDot Systems, Dwala, the Federal Reserve Bank, and closing out the session, we've got a really great panel one-on-one with the co-founder of Park Mobile. So please join us, return back, have a little lunch, come back, network. Thanks again for everything that TAG has done. And once again, thank you to all of our panelists and moderators. We're really looking forward to a great afternoon and a great rest of the week here at FinTech South. Thanks so much, and we'll talk soon.